Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome to my guide for Tier 6 of the Ghost Hunting Master Event. Now this is a very difficult battle, but it can be done with just the free-to-play space characters at Gear 6. It is going to be incredibly difficult and it is very RNG based, but there are a lot of things you can do to make it a lot easier to actually win. Now, personally, it took me a lot more attempts than I think it will take the average person. It took me probably around 8 or 9 hours worth of attempts all told. I have pretty much all of that recorded, so I've got a lot of footage of my failed attempts. But what you're watching right now is the one successful attempt that I did have. So first of all, huge thanks to Bricko, the legend himself, for helping me with this strategy. He beat Tier 6 with this team right here. All 7 stars, but all Gear 6, with only the pretty easy to farm pieces added to these characters. So this is definitely doable with these characters without them needing to be at Gear 7, and you don't even need a character like Quincy for the extra healing. It can be done with this team. It's just going to be very, very difficult. Also, he did use the Galaxy Explorer with the buff removal ability at level 5. Now that is going to use tier 3 set tools, but it's very important that you get some of those set tools either from like Jay's event or something to level this up to level 5, because that will help a lot with this event. My personal Galaxy Explorer, that ability was at level 4, which made the whole battle much more RNG intensive, and that was one of the reasons that this battle took me so long to actually beat. But yeah, having that ability at level 5 can help a lot. So here is the basic strategy. So first of all, the kill order that he used at the very beginning was Willa, Magisto, and then Basil. Now personally that was not working for me very well. I did many attempts and was not able to beat it using that kill order. But then Captain Yeetus suggested that I try doing Magisto first and then going to Willa, and that actually worked and helped me to win. I'm not sure if it was that specifically that allowed me to win, but it definitely seemed to go much smoother at the beginning, so I would just recommend trying both, because going Willa first did work for Bricko, but for me it was going Magisto first that ended up working. So there are a couple important things to remember here. One, you have Locust Taunt, which will both give him taunt and remove taunt from the enemy that you are targeting with that ability. That can be very useful to remove taunt from Magisto at the very beginning to go after Willa, if that's who you want to go after, or Basil later on, and of course it will make Locust taunt. Now if you just let him taunt, most likely he will die, so it's very important that you get that damage block on him from Kelvin, and then once he drops below 50% health while he still has the damage block, you can use Commander Cold's second special ability to give him damage immunity for 2 turns. Now that is a very key part of this strategy. That damage immunity is going to completely save you in this battle. Ideally, you eventually at some points you want to get Locust have taunt and that damage immunity to really protect your team. And while he has damage immunity, you could do an AoE with him, either with his ultimate ability or with just his second special, and hit all of the units on the enemy team with counterattack, cause all of them to counter on Locust, but he has damage immunity, so he won't actually be damaged, and then thanks to Kelvin's passive, that will heal up the team a decent amount. Now that's a very useful tactic that you can use to heal up the team, and also if you need more healing, like on a character that's pretty low on health, you can use a character that has a higher amount of health at the moment to go after a unit with counterattack to get that heal. Now sometimes because you are using the Galaxy Explorer, you will dispel that buff before the unit actually counterattacks, but that's alright. I think generally all the other buffs that you get from the Galaxy Explorer are in the end a lot more helpful. Now, as with most of these master events, it's very important to play the end of each wave very specifically, because the next wave will spawn in when you have a certain amount of units left, and you want to make sure that you're leaving behind the right units. So what Bricko recommends is that you take out Spooky Girl as the last unit, because the second wave will spawn in when you have just 2 units left. So ideally, you want to leave Yorick and Brutus as your last 2. And the reason you're doing that is Spooky Girl does a lot of damage, and you don't really need another high-powered attacker sticking around for the next wave. Now, personally, what happened on my attempt that I actually won is I got stuck behind Brutus's taunt on himself, and ended up accidentally killing him, even though I was really trying not to. So Spooky Girl actually stuck around for the next wave, but my units had a decent amount of health because the first wave went really well for me on this one. So I decided to just keep going, and it ended up working out pretty well. And also I did leave Spooky Girl and York with not too much health, so it wasn't a real pain to take them out in the next wave. Now in this next wave, it's important to note that the third and final wave will spawn in when you're down to 3 units this time, not 2. So the first 2 units you take out here should be Slimer and the Ghost, since they are the most powerful, and you don't want either one of them to be there for the last wave as well. So what you should do is completely target Slimer first whenever you can. He is going to do a lot of damage, and you want to try to prevent as much of that as possible. Now luckily he doesn't have a very large health pool here, so what you can do is actually stun him, which will prevent him from going under stealth, and then land another attack on him, and then you'll go under stealth. Basically, he will put himself under stealth whenever he is damaged, except with that stun ability. Now, whenever Slimer is under stealth and not available to be attacked, you're going to want to go after the Ghost, because he is also, like I said, a very powerful attacker, and you want to get him out too. And if at any point in time Slimer is under stealth and you can't target him, go ahead and use Locust's AoE or his ultimate ability to deal more damage to Slimer whenever possible. Then after taking out Slimer or the Ghost, take out the other one. Basically, you just want to make sure that both of those two are eliminated first and foremost. And then, like I said, the third and final wave will spawn in when you're down to just 3 units. So in my opinion, I think it's a good idea to take out Yorick as your last unit here, and leave Brutus, Barnabas, and Verda as the last 3. Now for me, since I had Spooky Girl, I just went ahead and took her out, and took out York once the third wave spawned in right at the beginning, and that worked out pretty well. And also, as you can see here, I timed a really lucky damage immunity on Locust. A lot of this is very RNG based. There is some things you can do with timing, but for the most part, it's just going to be how the turns work out and how all the RNG goes with the buff dispels and all of that. So expect to take a lot of attempts on this battle, especially if you're not using a character like Quincy for that extra healing. Now here I also recommend taking out the Ghost first. Again, you don't want that damage on the field, but you are going to have to work around 3 different taunts here from Barnabas, Brutus, and Jester. So that's why the Galaxy Explorer with that buff dispel ability at level 5 is so important, because you want those constant buff dispels to get around the taunt. And so here, just try to stun the Ghost, just try to control him as much as possible, and then once you take him out, I just recommend going after whoever is lowest on health. If you think you can, take them out before Jester taunts, because if you damage Jester, he is going to heal the weakest ally, and you don't want that heal to trigger. So after you do take out Ghost, you could immediately go for Jester, but if there is a unit, like there was for me, in my case it was Barnabas, who was very low in health, so I just went ahead and took out Barnabas before moving on to Jester. And from there, you can just take out Brutus and Verda. This is going to be very difficult at the end here. I got to this point multiple times and then lost because the Ghost just did too much damage to my team. But thanks to that damage immunity on my team, I was able to keep everyone alive until the very end, and that allowed me to just do a little bit of extra damage here and there. Interestingly enough, Dwayne actually came in and took out a couple units. I think he was actually the one that took out Jester. So even though he's not necessarily a great unit, he can do a little bit of extra damage, and of course he is also another target for the enemies to attack, which can be very helpful to spread out the total damage that the enemy team is doing. So definitely expect this battle to take many attempts and take quite a bit of time to actually beat. Having that ability, that buff dispel ability on the Galaxy Explorer at level 5 is going to help a lot. That being a 50% chance is very critical. For me, it was just a 40% chance, and that's part of the reason why it took so long for me to beat that. So if you are able to, definitely take that ability to level 5, but if not, it's just going to be even more RNG intensive. So that is going to be it for this one. Thanks again to Bricktini for helping me with the general strategy, and of course thanks to Captain Yidis for the Magisto first suggestion. But yeah, that's going to be it for this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.